White billionaire refuses black waitress unaware owner of restaurant is watching. What if the power to change a system of injustice wasn't in the hands of the rich and powerful, but in the quiet courage of those who are usually invisible? Jasmine Carter adjusted the crisp white apron tied around her waist, her fingers moving with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. At 28, she was a study in contrasts. Her warm brown eyes held a quiet resilience, while her quick smile disarmed even the most demanding patrons at the Ebony Table, Chicago's premier fine dining establishment. By day, she navigated the egos of the city's elite, serving plates of seared scallops and pouring vintage wines with a grace that belied the exhaustion in her bones. By night, she pored over political science textbooks, her mind racing with dreams of dismantling the systems that had kept people like her, black, working class, ambitious, on the margins for too long. The restaurant was a microcosm of Chicago's power structure. Politicians, CEOs, and old money families dined here, their conversations dripping with influence. Jasmine had learned to read the room like a seasoned diplomat, knowing which smiles to flash and which slights to swallow. But tonight, something felt different. The air was heavier, the chatter sharper. She sensed it the moment she stepped onto the floor, her sensible black flats silent against the polished hardwood. Her manager, Tasha, a no-nonsense woman with a knack for spotting trouble, pulled her aside before the shift. "Table 12, Tasha said, her voice low. "Richard Stone. Billionaire, real estate mogul, and a world-class jerk. Keep your cool, Jazz. He's got a reputation." Jasmine nodded, her jaw tightening. She'd served men like Stone before, men who saw her as invisible, a prop in their carefully curated lives. But she wasn't here to make waves. She was here to pay for her degree, to build a future where she could fight for change, not just endure it. "I got this," she said, flashing Tasha a confident smile. As she approached table 12, she took in Richard Stone. Mid-50s, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, his silver hair swept back like he'd stepped out of a boardroom photo shoot. He sat alone, his phone in one hand, a glass of bourbon in the other, his eyes fixed on the screen. The table was set for one, a power move that screamed he didn't need company to dominate a room. "Good evening, sir," Jasmine said, her voice warm but professional. "I'm Jasmine, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with water?" He cut her off, not looking up. "Flat, no ice. And make it quick." Jasmine's smile didn't falter, though her fingers twitched at her side. She nodded and turned to fetch the water, her mind already compartmentalizing the slight. It wasn't personal, she told herself. It was just how men like Stone operated, treating service staff like machinery, not people. She returned with the water in record time, setting it down with a soft clink. "Anything else I can get started for you?" she asked, her tone steady. Stone finally glanced up, his pale blue eyes flicking over her like she was part of the decor. "Just bring me the menu," he said, his voice clipped. "And don't hover." Jasmine stepped back, her heart thudding. She'd dealt with rude customers before, but something about Stone's dismissive tone cut deeper. It wasn't just arrogance, it was the assumption that she was beneath his notice, unworthy of basic courtesy. She took a slow breath, reminding herself why she was here. Not just for the tips, but for the bigger fight. She wouldn't let one man's ego derail her. The night wore on, and Stone's demands grew more exacting. He sent back his appetizer because the garnish was off-center. He complained the wine was too warm, despite it being stored at precisely 55 degrees. Each interaction was a test, and Jasmine passed with flying colors, her professionalism a shield against his barbs. But inside, the weight of his condescension was piling up, each slight a reminder of the countless times she'd been made to feel small. At one point, as she refilled his water, Stone muttered, "You'd think they'd train you people better." The words were soft, almost casual, but they landed like a slap. Jasmine froze for a split second, her hand steady on the pitcher but her mind racing. "You people." The phrase echoed with a history she knew too well, centuries of dismissal, of being reduced to a stereotype. She wanted to snap back, to demand respect, but she couldn't. Not here. Not now. She had too much to lose. Instead, she smiled tightly and said, "I'll ensure everything's perfect for you, sir." Her voice was calm, but her heart was a drumbeat of anger and resolve. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing her crack. Unbeknownst to Jasmine or Stone, another pair of eyes was watching from across the room. Malik Green, the owner of the ebony table, stood near the bar, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. At 42, Malik was a Chicago legend, a black entrepreneur who'd risen from the South Side to build a restaurant that rivaled the city's best. His mission was clear: create a space where everyone, from the busboy to the billionaire, was treated with dignity. He'd seen Stone's type before, men who thought their wealth entitled them to disrespect anyone they deemed lesser. But Malik had made a promise to himself and his community: not in his house. Malik had been keeping an eye on table 12 since Stone walked in. He'd noticed Jasmine's impeccable service, her ability to stay composed under pressure. He'd also noticed Stone's behavior, the way he avoided her gaze, the sharp edge to his requests. Malik's jaw tightened as he overheard Stone's "you people" comment. He'd seen enough. As Jasmine moved to clear a plate, Stone's voice cut through the hum of the restaurant. "This steak is overcooked," he said, loud enough for nearby tables to turn. "Do you even know what medium rare means, or is that too much for you to handle?" The words hung in the air, heavy and deliberate. A few patrons glanced over, their curiosity piqued. Jasmine's cheeks burned, but she kept her eyes on the table, her hands steady as she reached for the plate. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said, her voice smooth despite the storm inside. "I'll have the chef prepare a new one right away." Stone smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Make it quick. I don't have all night." Jasmine nodded and turned toward the kitchen, her steps measured but her mind racing. She wanted to scream, to tell him exactly what she thought of his entitlement. But she couldn't afford to lose this job, not when her tuition was due, not when she was so close to finishing her degree. She pushed through the kitchen doors, her breath shallow, and handed the plate to the chef. "He says it's overcooked," she said quietly. The chef, a grizzled man named Carlos, raised an eyebrow. "That steak was perfect. Guy's just looking for a fight." Jasmine didn't respond. She didn't need to. Carlos gave her a knowing nod, and she headed back to the floor, steeling herself for the next round. Malik had seen enough. He stepped away from the bar, his movements deliberate, his tailored suit cutting a sharp silhouette against the warm lighting. He approached table 12 with the calm authority of a man who knew exactly what he was about to do. Jasmine, returning with Stone's replacement steak, paused as she saw Malik approach. Her heart skipped. She'd never seen him intervene with a customer before. "Mr. Stone," Malik said, his voice low but commanding, drawing the attention of nearby tables. "I'm Malik Green, the owner of the ebony table. I've been watching your interaction with my staff tonight, and I need to address something." Stone looked up, his expression a mix of surprise and irritation. "Is there a problem?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Yes," Malik said, his eyes steady. "The problem is your behavior. You've been disrespectful to Jasmine, who's been nothing but professional. That kind of conduct isn't welcome here." Stone blinked, caught off guard. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Do you know who I am? I could buy this place 10 times over." Malik didn't flinch. "I don't care who you are, Mr. Stone. Wealth doesn't buy you the right to treat people like they're beneath you. You have 2 choices: apologize to Jasmine and change your behavior, or you're done here. Permanently." The restaurant went quiet, the clatter of silverware and hum of conversation fading as patrons turned to watch. Jasmine stood frozen, the steak plate still in her hands, her heart pounding. She'd never seen anyone stand up to a man like Stone before, not like this. Part of her wanted to intervene, to smooth things over, but another part, a stronger part, urged her to stay silent and let Malik's words do their work. Stone's face reddened, his jaw tightening. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice tight. "I'm a regular here. I bring in business." Malik's smile was cold. You're not a regular if you can't respect my staff. This isn't just a restaurant, it's a community. And we don't tolerate disrespect, no matter how much money you have. The twist hit Stone like a freight train. He'd walked into the ebony table assuming his wealth and status made him untouchable, but Malik's unwavering stance shattered that illusion. For the first time, Stone realized he wasn't in control. The power dynamic he'd relied on his entire life, where money silenced dissent, was crumbling before his eyes. Jasmine watched, her breath caught in her throat. She felt a surge of pride for Malik, for the way he'd turned his vision for this place into action. But she also felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about her, it was about every server, every worker, every person who'd ever been dismissed by someone like Stone. Stone's eyes flicked to Jasmine, then back to Malik. The silence stretched, taut and electric. Finally, he muttered, "Fine. I'm sorry." The words were grudging, barely audible, but they were there. Malik raised an eyebrow. "Louder, Mr. Stone. She deserves to hear it." Stone's jaw clenched, but he turned to Jasmine, his voice strained. "I'm sorry for how I spoke to you." Jasmine met his gaze, her chin lifted. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady but firm. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Her dignity was intact, and that was enough. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Stone finished his meal in silence, his usual bravado subdued. Jasmine served him with the same professionalism she'd shown all night, but there was a new strength in her step, a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. The other patrons, who'd witnessed the exchange, murmured among themselves, some nodding in approval, others casting uneasy glances at Stone. As the restaurant began to empty, Malik pulled Jasmine aside. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft but searching. Jasmine nodded, a small smile breaking through. "Yeah. Thank you, Malik. I didn't expect that." "You shouldn't have to expect it," he said, his eyes steady. "You're part of this place, Jazz. You're part of what makes it special. Don't ever forget that." Jasmine felt a lump in her throat. She'd spent so long fighting her battles alone, against prejudice, against exhaustion, against a system that seemed designed to keep her down. But tonight, she hadn't been alone. Malik's intervention wasn't just about Stone, it was a reminder that she was seen, valued, and worth fighting for. As she left the restaurant that night, her backpack slung over her shoulder, Jasmine glanced back at the glowing sign of the ebony table. She thought about her degree, her dreams of changing the world, and the small but powerful victory she'd witnessed tonight. It wasn't the end of systemic injustice, but it was a start. And for now, that was enough. The events at the ebony table rippled beyond that single night. Word of Malik's stand spread, first among the staff, then among patrons, and eventually through Chicago's tight-knit communities. The restaurant became a symbol of something bigger, a place where dignity wasn't negotiable, no matter who you were. For Jasmine, the night was a turning point. She carried herself with a new resolve, her studies fueled by the knowledge that change wasn't just a dream but a possibility she could help make real. For Richard Stone, the night was a rare moment of accountability. He returned to the ebony table weeks later, quieter, more respectful. He never mentioned the incident, but his demeanor had shifted. The lesson wasn't lost on him. Wealth could buy many things, but it couldn't buy absolution from consequences. The story of that night became a quiet legend, a reminder that power isn't just in money or status, it's in the courage to stand up, the resilience to keep going, and the choice to treat every person with respect. For Jasmine, Malik, and everyone who heard the tale, it was a spark of hope, a promise that change starts with the small, brave acts that ripple outward, reshaping the world one moment at a time.